And in this truth, we live. I'm so happy to be here with you on this magical, powerful solstice. This is the most powerful solstice that we have had for many thousands of years, and I'll explain why. So, this solstice is an alignment. It's a planetary alignment that is so much more than what our scientists would describe as a solstice. We have been living in a reality that we can call a false matrix. And what is false about it? Many different things, but two very important aspects. The first one is time, and the other one is how it captures our mind. So, the aspect of time, when you see it in higher realms and you're looking at the earth, which really was surrounded by this false flow of time, would look exactly like a zipper. And so all the beings on planet Earth, the vast majority of them, would be within the world that has a zipper. So it's closed. And it is time that seems to be flowing the way that we know it. So you and me in this world, we say, okay, this is how time flows. We have 60 minutes in an hour. We have 365 days in a year. That's the flow of time. But actually, when you look at it from a higher perspective, and you are, for example, in a different dimension, higher dimension, looking at the flow of time on Earth, everything is actually very, very fast. So let's say, and this is how I imagine it is, when we volunteer to come here, we say, oh, it's not a big deal. I'm going to be there for 20 divine seconds. And so what we perceive then as our lifetime here is 20 divine seconds. And so that's why so many people who experience near death, they say, oh, I immediately let go of the body. I didn't care about the kids. I even forgot who I was really in this world. I was now in the divine reality. So that is the reason, because we perceive it as linear, kind of slow time, where we say a lifetime, 80 years of a lifetime, that's very long. But when we look at it from the divine reality, it's a split second, and it's easily forgettable. It is very, very easily forgettable. And so what happens during the solstice, that this zipper actually opens around the earth and allows us to perceive divine reality without the illusion of the false time. And we actually even have the opportunity to really connect with the divine self in a whole new way. And a lot of our past civilizations, when they disappeared, they actually disappeared during the solstice because they ascended as a collective. That's why they measured the solstice. It was, I think, you see it in all the ancient structures. They wanted to know the precise moment of the solstice for this reason, so that they can escape this false matrix. So today we'll speak a little bit about what the false matrix is. And if you want the details of it, it is really, really wonderfully described in the Second Coming of Christ in Yogananda's book. It's a big book. You can listen to it online on YouTube. There is a robot that reads it. I think it takes about 7 hours to listen to the whole thing. But it is really worth it to listen to it and to look at the world that we knew as our reality. Also, of course, other mystics, they describe the false matrix, but they use different words. And even Lao Tzu, the Tao Te Ching, it really is again describing the false matrix. And then we have poets like in Sufism, Rumi, again describing the false matrix and how to escape it. So we've had a lot of different teachings around the world. When the mystics got to know the true divine reality, they were trying to show the way to everyone. So the false matrix was missing so much, was missing a lot of things. It was actually disconnected from the divine reality. And the way that it got disconnected had a lot to do with a disconnect from our cosmic mother, from our divine mother. And that's why the beings who created the false matrix, they were actually just extreme patriarchal society, extreme patriarchal energy, and very abusive. And so you can see the nature of the matrix, how it was created. It was missing the energy of divine mother. and it was not connected to divine reality, which is permeated by divine love. And so you can say that our ascension is really liberation, and it is the liberation of an entire planet, liberation of the dimensions of the planet too. So not only is it the third dimensional liberation, but it's also the liberation from the reincarnation and that we experienced here, which was also the fourth dimension. So not only are we liberating a planet, but we are liberating a planet and what we call fourth dimension around the earth, or fourth dimension as astral plane. So it's a huge, huge transformation of our reality. What I would say is that nothing can remain the same, because it's a whole new world, and we call it the new earth after all, which is very appropriate. So all of this ascension, the liberation of this planet, is actually the return of true divine reality. You know, in this world, we often had religions and they spoke about, you know, Father God. But to me, that's not the true divine Father that they spoke about. Everything in this world was controlled, and we can call it time matrix and mind matrix. That was heavily manipulated. And when I say heavily, I mean 99% of it was manipulated. The only thing that could not be manipulated is the light of God that we were bringing in with us. I remember, like, clearly coming here and coming, you know, from what we would call our divine reality. And when the mission was described to us, what it would entail. And I know that maybe millions of us have come here, you know, over the years to be the light of God, to be the kindness, the love, the harmony, the peacefulness of God. And in a way, we were also called freedom jumpers. We would jump into this reality. And that's you and me here, and, you know, of course, many, many others over the years. And the idea was that, can we hold on to the truth that is within us? And the truth was not some words, some scripture, but it was actually the truth as the light of God within us. And so imagine when you come from the divine reality and you say, I can do this. I can easily go into this dark cave, because even Plato described it as the dark cave. We will look at some visuals so that we understand why it would be a dark cave. And so you go into the darkness. You go into a world that's very dirty. You go into a world where the light of God often is hidden in a being behind many, many layers of unconsciousness. But the light is still within, because we are immortal beings. We are beings that originated in the divine self, in the light of God. And so when we say, you know, I'm going to go in, I know it's going to be difficult, I know it's going to be very dark all around me, but we'll bring the light of God in our hearts. So it's the love of God and the light of God, the love light. And so then we came here and we were called the freedom jumpers. You jump into this reality and you say, I will hold on to this light for my dear life. And of course, it was always challenging. And the challenge was the temptation. But the temptation was never what, you know, our religions told us. It had really very little to do with what we today would say, you know, the sex and whatever, the drugs and who knows what. That is not the real meaning of temptation. The real temptation would be to believe that the world is real. If a person started to believe that the world is real, that also meant they can have fear about the world. It also meant that they can have desire that can only be fulfilled within this cave, the fallen world. If a person thought they can find satisfaction in this world, then that was the temptation, and basically the world tempted them, told them a lie. Second coming of Christ, Yogananda, you know, he speaks about a lot the different beings who created this world originally, and how they took the world from divine creation, where our cosmic parents created beautiful planets, beautiful worlds with beautiful beings upon them. But then there were some beings who wanted to keep a world to themselves, and they found a technological way to do that. It's a crazy story, but it's the story of this world. The thing is that, as you know, the story has come to an end. the biggest portal that we have experienced recently, many of them, was 11/11, then 12/12. And on December 13th, a new life, in a way, started for us. Our DNA got once again activated. And once again, we've experienced incredible upgrade. And that upgrade was so huge on 12/12. I was actually flying. I was going to visit my daughter. And so I was on a flight meditating. And on the flight, when you meditate in the plane, usually you have better connection because you're away from all the human energy, you know, the busy energy of the mind. And so you are a little bit higher up from it. And so I could see how above our head was the cube of what we call, you know, we know it as cube of Metatron. So with all the platonic solids, and it was above our crown, and it was activating our DNA. So that was another portal, 12/12, huge breakthrough. But today we are in the portal of the solstice. We are in timelessness. So many people are experiencing as if something is happening, as if they are disconnecting from time, as if they are perceiving time differently, because there is timelessness in divine creation. There are cycles and evolutionary cycles, but not the way that we experience it here on planet Earth. And so all of this is the return of the balance between the true divine masculine, which is the energy of our divine Father, and then the true love of our divine Mother. And so it's now within us, and it's within this world. And all of this, you know, it's just been escalating massively since 2018. And then, of course, 2020 was a huge escalation of it. So we're going to take a look a little bit at, today we will meditate together and we will do purification. I don't have my slides in a good order today, but I will get to it. Tomorrow I will put them in the right order. But I wanted to announce that we created a new YouTube channel for Patricia. And so for those of you, and I think all of you work with Patricia, follow Patricia, you know, she doesn't have a YouTube channel, or didn't have until yesterday. And there is a YouTube channel called Patricia Cota Robles, but it's not Patricia's. And so we will now start populating it. I started to upload some videos from the World Congress, and Patricia will be posting her new vlogs on this channel. So if you can go and find this on YouTube, it is called Patricia Cota Robles Official. And if you can subscribe to the channel, and that way we can start building up Patricia back so that she can again have older people on YouTube for her weekly vlogs. So that's the little announcement here. And then I wanted to speak a little bit about, you know, the big transformation, of course, that took place. So what has happened is that we are in a cosmic cycle. And the cosmic cycle, if we can count how many years a cosmic cycle is, it's a creation cycle. And so I don't know how many creation cycles there have been, but we are in one. And in earthly terms, a cosmic cycle lasts hundreds of thousands of millions of years. I don't know if that's the right description, but it's a lot. And so within this cosmic cycle, when creation emanated from Source, it emanates first as the aspect of the Father, and the yogis call this aspect Ishvara. And then Ishvara, and we have beautiful mantras, for example, with Kalishwar. Ishvara as the light creates then the emanation of Divine Mother. And then Divine Mother is really the creator. Divine Mother then goes through creation, and she is the energy of cosmos. She is in all life. She is in all form, and even form that we wouldn't call third dimensional, but all of creation then has Divine Mother within itself. And in this cosmic cycle, because everything is created through vibration and frequency, we had one frequency, one vibration that was creating what we would call that impure nature, and eventually we called it evil and selfish and abusive. And also, you know, we had a word for it, Satan, but also other traditions called it different names. Simply energy that is not one, doesn't sense itself, doesn't perceive itself as one with, and yet it too originated in oneness. So in this cosmic cycle, we have experienced the transcendence of this. This is so unbelievable. We are now in a new world. We are now in a new dream time. We have been liberated, and yet, as you see, we still are in a world where we don't really experience it fully. But internally, this is our new life. Our Divine Mother Mahaprakriti, our Divine Mother Sophia, our Divine Mother Shakti, Lakshmi, whatever names, Virgin Mary, it's the same being. We just have given her different names. It's the same being. It is Cosmic Mother. And all of cosmos is nature. So we call her Cosmic Mother Nature. And she's the one who now is integrated. No more does Sophia have a fallen aspect of herself. Now, this is such a huge transformation of all life that every day now we can really think about only the divine self. So this was the story of Sophia, how she created what we would call Satan, but in Gnostic tradition it had a different name, Yaldabaoth. But it doesn't matter. All of this doesn't matter anymore, but it's just good to know because our operating system is probably still operating the old way and awakening a little bit to the new, but we want to be completely new. So I'm going to skip a few slides. So our DNA got again activated, not only like this year, we've just experienced so many activations of the DNA, but now it's the new you. The new you might start to lose interest in the world around us, in the drama of the world around us, in the battles of the world around us, in the temptation of the world around us. Because we are becoming beings in samadhi. Samadhi is when we completely transcend this world and we get connected to our divine self. And our divine self is not interested in this fallen world from which we are being liberated into the divine reality. I have so much information about it because since 11/11, all of us are actually meeting in higher realms. And we are receiving so much information about all of this. We are all going into samadhi. We are all embodying the divine self, which is what the yogis call samadhi. What is samadhi? Have you ever seen someone in samadhi? We have pictures of Yogananda. The being has a body, and the body is here in this false matrix. The false matrix trapped the body. It wanted the bodies here. The false matrix wanted more and more and more and more immortal beings to be trapped within the false matrix. That's why people love sex, people love to make babies. Yogananda even spelled it out. He said, it's all upside down. We should not celebrate when someone is born into a prison. It's a very big story. But again, to me, sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, everything is then upside down. And we can trust someone like Yogananda because he was such a great avatar. And he was saying everything was reversed. We celebrated birth into the fallen matrix. We got so sad when somebody died because actually we should celebrate that someone's departing from the false matrix and hopefully they could make it through the fourth dimension and get out. But very few could do it because we had so much attachment to this illusion. So we will be now opening our eyes because of what's happening in higher realms where we meet at night. Since 11/11, it's just very busy. And, we have great, great guardians of the earth. They've been coming here for thousands, millions of years, trying to return the earth back into divine reality. One big reason for this is because Divine Mother was in a way trapped partially in this world too. Since she's the mother of all creation, she is in cosmos, she is in the planets, she is in the trees, she is in the ocean, she is the Deva, she is the Devi, she's the ultimate mother of form. Then when these beings who wanted selfishly a world to themselves trapped a world, they also then trapped an aspect of Divine Mother. So we had some fairy tales. I think there's a fairy tales about Moana. And that to me reminds me a little bit of the story of Divine Mother. How she was trapped here. And because Divine Mother is the mother of elements, she's the mother of elementals, she's the mother of creation, which means if some beings want to create hell, that traps her energy in that too, since she is the one who gives birth to all form. So when beings then use energy, which is also originating from Divine Mother, and they misuse energy, then they trap Divine Mother partially. So once upon a time, Divine Mother within the earth was crying into this universe, and we heard her cry. She was asking for help to be liberated. She was asking to be returned to divine reality. And so all the Christ conscious beings started to come here. Christ consciousness was the only panacea for this entrapment, because Christ consciousness is transcendental. So the only way to liberate all the beings who got trapped here, but to liberate also the world, was through Christ consciousness. And we brought it with us. When we meditate a lot, obviously we start having all these divine experiences. It takes a while. It takes, a big commitment, huge energy, because we have to first really dig through the illusion of this world to get to the truth. And the truth cannot be found in this world. Even all the scriptures, all the wonderful teachings, everything was in this world. So you see, when you go deep into a cave, then that was this world. I'm just going to find an image here to show you. And then everything that you find within the cave is not actually in the divine reality. I'm going to skip quite a lot of slides here. I apologize for that, because I actually wanted to take you to something that started to happen since 11/11. You and me have been in this world for a while, and so we agree probably that we think a lot in this world. But what do we think about in this world? We a lot, and some people just only think about this world. So it's like you go into a dark cave, which is disconnected from divine reality, and then you see all the shadows in the world, just like Plato described it. And then you start just thinking about the shadows. And as you think about the shadows, you are co-creating more and more and more and more of that world, because thought creates. And so this matrix was an incredible, really, trick to trick us into thinking about it so much. 70,000 thoughts a day, many decades of our life, we would think about the matrix. And so this matrix is perpetuated by thought. It is a time and thought matrix. So when I'm in the cave and I see the shadows, I start thinking about them. And then I forget who I am, because I've been seeing the shadows around me so much, right? So all I think about is the shadows around me, and I start calling it reality. This is the end of that. Now is the time to again remember our divine birthright, as Patricia calls it. And that is to actually only use beautiful thoughts to create beautiful divine reality. It will happen when we all get out of the cave. And we will. We are rising from the cave. We are ascending from it. And how is it done? It is done in a way by us now having the lifeline back to the divine self. So you can say either that we are in the cave, but also maybe in a very dark place where we've been diving into this world, and sometimes forgetting that our lifeline needs to remain intact, and that is our connection with the divine reality. Divine reality is not in this world, but it can be accessed through us. It's like a phone call we make to the divine reality when we meditate. It's a phone call we make when we only think about our divine self. It's a phone call we make when we are in love with Divine Mother. It's a phone call we make when we, meditate, pray, do whatever. That is a phone call outside of this world. So we need to hold on to our connection to the divine self. I was thinking about it this way, that, when we descend here, we descend from the divine reality. And the rope that we descend upon is the pillar of light that connects us to our divine self. The divine self does not descend into this world. And so we come here, and the most important thing to hold on to, right, is the rope. We don't want to lose the rope. We don't want to lose the connection with the divine self. The divine self is the light of God that comes through the rope and is expressed through our hearts. Imagine what happened when we fell from grace. We got disconnected. We had a disconnect from the rope. And then what happens? Just visualize this with me. 8 billion of us descend into this world. You cut off the rope, and we are in a cave. And then we forget where we came from. So we start walking around, looking around. You could say that we are actually truly blind, because we adjust to the darkness. And then we start saying, you know what, this is not too bad. If I have a nice house, if I have a lot of money, if I look like this, if I succeed like that, it's not too bad. And that's exactly what happened. And that's what these beings who created this world wanted. They wanted us here, and they wanted us to forget. And they wanted us to start thinking that we can find satisfaction in the cave. We got tricked. And so we became co-creators of the false matrix. Because what these beings wanted, they wanted us here. They wanted us to be recycled again and again and again through what they called reincarnation, which was actually a false wheel of karma that was put in place in the fourth dimension, always sending us back. And so what did the avatars, what did they do? The avatars would come here, right? And they maintain their connection with the divine self. They didn't want to touch this world. They didn't want to know anything about this world. Yogananda would not even touch money. He didn't want a coin in his pocket when his students, they were buying ice cream and then they would give him money. And he said, no, 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 don't want to touch anything of this world. He didn't want to like anything about this world. When his students pointed at something and said, oh, that's so beautiful, he immediately said, be quiet, say nothing. Feel the divine reality beyond all. And the reason for that was, I don't know if you know the story, Yogananda, he obviously came here, he was here in the body, and one day he realized he liked coffee. The moment he realized he liked it, he stopped having it. Because he said, oh no, I like it. It got me. This fallen world got me. I like something about it. I must immediately stop having it. So, strict conditions. These were strict conditions, and we are coming out of these strict conditions. So Yogananda, I always wondered about it, I met him in these, whatever you want to call it, like higher realms, interdimensional realms. He appeared, and he was teaching me so much about this world, but he was always saying, you cannot think about anything else but God. And I thought, Yogananda, you don't have family, Yogananda, you don't live a life, how can you constantly be thinking about God? And I thought, I think about it when I'm meditating. I'm thinking about it when I'm doing my spiritual work. But I also am living, and I would call it life, right? Yogananda said, that's not a real life. Don't take it so seriously. That's not a real life. And so after 11/11, the energies got very, very strong. And I think all of us noticed. They were calling us back home. They were calling us back into the divine reality. So I know when these energies get strong, you can ask, and it is given. And so I asked, and I said to Yogananda, I said, Yogananda, you always said this world is not real. You always said our lives are not real. But they seem so real, don't they? And so I said, please show me. I want to see it for myself that this is not real at all. And that night, I was able to go outside the earth and to look at the false matrix. Not exactly the earth, but the false matrix within which the earth is, has been, but no longer will be. And what I saw was really fascinating. Just gonna again skip here. I saw the ocean of divine reality. The divine reality was everywhere except for one little bubble. And the one little bubble was the false matrix. And it looked like a drop of oil that doesn't mix with the ocean of divine reality. And so this is the world that Yogananda speaks about, that Satan created, or evil beings created, or, Gnostic Sophia, Archons created, to keep for themselves. They just took a little piece of a world and put it in this different time and space kind of fabric, and we call it the matrix, and created disconnect. I was able to see everything about it that night, and I was watching it. I was watching how it works, and the most beautiful thing was to feel the energy of divine reality. All of divine reality truly feels like love. And to me, it was not just like that beings love each other, but love was like a temperature. It was like you could feel it everywhere, and it was the energy. And I compare it to, when you're in the mountains and you walk outside, it's cold. The temperature is everywhere, it's cold. And you're outside walking and you're like, okay, I cannot see it, but I feel it. And so love felt the same way. It was everywhere, and it was permeating all things. And it was like the nature of divine reality is the energy of love, the weather of love, the temperature of love. And then the false matrix, I could see it. We were trapped inside of it, even though it's just one little drop, but it feels like space is real. But from the divine perspective, even space is not real. Everything within the matrix is not real. And then the beings, us, right, within it, I could see how we think a lot, and every thought became a thing. And we were thinking and thinking and thinking about our lives, thinking about, all the situations, thinking about the good and the bad. But every thought was making the matrix grow, to be perpetuated. And so the only way to disconnect from it was complete silence of the mind, samadhi, complete alignment with what is outside of the matrix. And so it was like leaving the body behind because it's in the matrix, but all your consciousness is now transferred into divine reality. And so that's exactly what samadhi then is. Complete nothingness. The being has transferred all their consciousness into the divine reality. Isn't that amazing? And it's happening to all of us now. The false reality is dissolving right now. So we will finally, when it bursts completely, I saw the veil. I saw the veil exactly what it's like. It's like if you had oil, right? It has film like on the outside of the bubble, and that is the veil. It is like a membrane of the disconnected reality. But the truth is divine reality, and we have access to it. Through meditation, we can go into complete emptiness. So We had beings who came here, right? And what did they do? They managed to maintain that connection to the divine self, which is outside of this reality. And they were identifying with the divine reality only. And so they would say something like, I and my Father are one. I and my divine self are one. That means I'm only identifying with the divine reality outside of this matrix. Yes, and we will go into the depth of it. Today we will do our meditation, but before we do that, I want to say Yogananda, you know, he was of course just like Jesus, the same being, and they came directly on this mission. They came not to forget, and so they had to constantly be connected to the divine reality. Yogananda even said, instead of thinking, it's better to be just constantly repeating in your mind, God, 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 God. And again, you know, I thought, that's crazy. How can you do this? But now that I've seen the false matrix from a distance and how it works, it is actually the most reasonable thing to do, is to constantly be calling into the divine reality and to be one with it, so that we don't become one with this world. You see, we are here in this world, but we are here on a mission. And so Yogananda had a beautiful poem, and in the poem he said, in waking, eating, working, dreaming, sleeping, serving, meditating, chanting, divinely loving, my soul will constantly hum, unheard by any, God, God, God. You know, we've worked a lot with the Hopi people, and the Hopi people, when you talk to them, they will constantly be speaking about the narrow, straight path. And they always say, you have to stay on the narrow, straight path. You have to stick to the narrow, straight path. Look at this narrow, straight path. That is the rope, constantly aligned with the Creator, constantly be in communion with the Creator. And we can be working, we can be talking, we can be cooking, we can be with our families, but our consciousness cannot become one with this world. It has to stay aligned with the divine self, right? Yeah. And so this is the revelation now. The matrix, of course, the false matrix has to expire, because the beings behind the false matrix are expiring too. The big boss behind the false matrix no longer is allowed to operate. So we will do meditation today, and that will be a meditation to completely become free from any burdens that we might have collected in the cave of the false matrix. That could be our thoughts, it could be our habits, it could be our emotions, it could be anything energetic that still is sticking to us. Because this is the time for a great shower, and it's going to be the shower by fire, and it's going to be a shower by the violet fire. And we will be using the beautiful meditation with Orin, which you find for free online in the meditation room. And so some people had difficulties hearing. I don't know what that could be. I'm using the same settings, so I'm just going to put the link in the chat. In case it's not coming through for you, just go to the meditation room and listen on your own. Orin's Sacred Transmuting Violet Flame Meditation. Okay, wonderful. And so it's 25 minutes. And again, just remembering, the more silent the mind, the better. I, for example, found that if my mind starts thinking, I know for sure it's the old mind, because the divine mind doesn't do that. So if you have random thoughts that are not creative, if you are not dreaming a new reality into being, then it's good to stop those thoughts, even if they might be about something like, you know, your life here, but still, it's good to stop those thoughts and command them. And so I command them, and I always say, I am that I am. I am that I am. I am that I am. And in that moment, you connect with your divine self. So I am that I am, you know, amazing. An Om for purification, if we want to step into purity, or even chanting Om just to align with our divine self too. But I am that I am disrupts the thinking mind. And so here we are.
The following journey is by Orin, channeled by Sanea Roman. For information, visit www.orindaben.com. ORINDABEN.com.
And so it is. So this is huge awakening. It's awakening from the false matrix so that we no longer co-created by our thought and instead start dreaming by being always connected with the divine reality, with our divine self. So in the past, we've had many, many beings who came here and they figured it out. Yogananda, he took the approach of, I don't want to be involved, right? So what they did, no sex. They didn't want to bring babies into the matrix. They didn't want to have pleasure in the matrix. So that was one way to do it. But we also had beings who figured it all out. And then they disconnected from all desire. But they were able to actually have fun in the false matrix. And that's a very unique way of experiencing it. For example, we have a being that tomorrow Alex Atterman will be speaking about. And to me, it doesn't mean that they really existed, but it's an archetype. And the archetype has been known as a Christed being, Dattatreya. And I think Dattatreya embodied the being who wakes up in the matrix, sees through all of it, and laughs at it, and is able to walk on water in it, is able to actually even have fun, but always knowing none of this is real. If you are a disciple of Yogananda, Yogananda always told a story of a saint. And the saint was at a river, and the disciples came to see the saint, and the saint was having a lot of food or a lot of cheese. And then I think the saint was calling in Krishna to part a river, and said, if I didn't eat, if I didn't have any cheese, then the river will part. And they were looking at him saying, you just ate, you just had cheese, but the river parted. So the river believed what he was saying. And he said, as I was eating here in this matrix, as I was doing something here in this matrix, I was not the one who was experiencing it. I gave it all to Krishna. I gave it all to Christ consciousness. So he was experiencing desireless desire. And that was another way of being in this matrix. So tomorrow, Alex will be talking about this. And I find it so amazing, the two different ways how to conquer the matrix. So beautiful. We will continue our journey. We will be together for 3 days. Today, tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow. Tomorrow, like for us here in California, the solstice exactly happens at around 1 a.m. Pacific time. So after 4 o'clock in the morning on the East Coast, and obviously in Australia and New Zealand, it's a day ahead. So the ancient civilizations, what they would do on solstice, they would fast. And they would fast not because it had anything to do with some type of purification or food. They were simply staying outside the matrix. Only in the matrix do people need to eat, because it's part of the matrix. But when we disconnect from the matrix, we realize we are sustained by life force. And so for 1 day, if it is something you have done before and you feel okay doing it, I do recommend 1 day of fasting only to be outside the matrix, because we can tomorrow. The solstice allows for it. And so by fasting, we are simply not participating in the matrix. We are saying, I don't have any needs here, because actually the true divine self doesn't have anything it needs or wants or can find within the matrix. And so I wanted to quickly just say a few words about the matrix. And since I was able to see it after 11/11, how it works. It's really important because, we obviously got trapped by it. And I'll explain that. So imagine yourself as the beautiful divine being that you are. And we come into this world, and this probably was, many, many hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years ago. And it is important that we always keep the connection to our divine self. This connection to the divine self got severed. That was called the fall. Imagine if you cut the rope and you fall. That's exactly how it would be. And so we've been living without this connection until 2018, 2019, 2020. Those were the years of the restoration of our connection with the divine self. That's why now it is even more important than connecting with our soul to connect with the divine self. Now we go directly back to our lifeline. Our lifeline, that is the true self. And so when the person got disconnected from the divine self, they were lost in the darkness of this world, which means unconsciousness. And so then all we had was the cave, and we were looking around and we couldn't find the truth because the truth was disconnected from us. And it would take a long time, a lot of effort to reconnect. And so now is a new world for all of us. Now we are the Christ in the Matrix. This is the story of Sophia. The entire movie, The Matrix, actually is a Gnostic movie. It shows Neo as the Christ. Neo means the new. He's the new one. And so we are the Christ in the Matrix. Sophia had the fallen aspect of herself that got trapped in the cave, in the world of the darkness. And she was calling throughout cosmos and asking, please come and help me. And who came to help is us, Christ consciousness. Christ consciousness has one very simple definition. It is the presence of all love and the absence of all fear. And so when we wake up in the Matrix. What is the Matrix from a distance? From a distance, when you see the Matrix, it's like a bubble of oil in the ocean of love. And the ocean of love is like water, so water and oil don't mix together. The Matrix is like a little bubble of oil, and the membrane, like the oil is slimy, right? It has a membrane, it doesn't mix with water, is the veil. And so we lived until now inside this little bubble within the ocean of love, but it didn't mix. And that's how the being who created this world created it, separated it from true divine reality. This is the end of that story. It's a new cosmic cycle, but it's good to understand what we are coming out of. When you step into the ocean of divine reality, it is a vibration of what we know as human beings as love. When you manage to exit the Matrix, it means moving beyond the veil. You are in the ocean of love. And so we know it as love, we know it as a state of being, but it actually is like, let's say you are in the mountains and it's winter. When you step outside, it's cold, and you say, it's cold, and it's everywhere. It permeates all things. The cold is there as the nature of winter in the mountains. It is the same with divine reality. When you exit the Matrix and you step into divine reality, it is permeated by love, and love is like the cold in the mountains. So it's just the nature of it, the nature of divine reality. It's everywhere, it's tangible, and it's love. The Matrix really was very tricky. It made us believe that it is a reality, and it wanted us to be tempted by it, and not in terms, sex and money, but actually the temptation was the thought. It wanted us to think about it and think about it and think about it, and to be controlled by it. It wanted us to be trapped in duality. It wanted us to think all the time, nonstop, in terms of polarity. It wanted us to have desire, even if it was something very reasonable, we would say. The Matrix actually was created as originally, it was our divine reality is a polarity. It's the polarity of Divine Mother, Divine Father. It is polarity of even what we would call matter and antimatter. And it is the yin and yang. And that's beautiful. But the creators of the Matrix created slight imperfections. They created opposites where one polarity would be very dissatisfying. Let's say it's disease, poverty. And the other side would be satisfying, and it would be health, and it would be riches. And so they created these satisfactions and dissatisfactions. And they created them as polar opposites so that people are always in desire, whether they are satisfied or dissatisfied. And the Matrix was created as a trap so that desire is always perpetuating the Matrix itself, and so that the beings within the Matrix think a lot and think that satisfaction can be found within the Matrix. And so a sick person would say, I want to be healthy. A poor person would say, I want to be wealthy. And all of the different opposites, a lonely person would say, I want to have love. And all of it would be still seeking through desire, through thought, for satisfaction within the Matrix. And then let's say the person found satisfaction in the Matrix and I'm rich, I'm young, I'm healthy, and all of it, I'm trying to come up with all the different examples. But the person would have false satisfaction. And that's what all the great gurus like Yogananda, the avatars, and even Lao Tzu in the Tao Te Ching wrote about. Rumi. Why? And, we would not even understand it anymore with our human mind, because we would think that doesn't make any sense. Of course, everybody wants to have satisfaction. Everyone wants to be here on the right. Nobody wants to be on the left. But that too was the trap, because the only way to exit the Matrix was actually the middle. And the middle is where Christ consciousness is. And so the only way a human being could have been saved, we have the Savior story, but it's just a story. But the true saving is saving our own being from the duality and illusion of the Matrix. And that only could be found in the center. And the center is when one becomes all love, which means 100%, in the absence of all fear. Because fear was like a parasite within the Matrix, because people would fear the conditions and they would search through desire for the opposite of the condition. But actually, the only field where conditions do not exist is the field in the middle. And so that was the only way out, was to embody the Christ self. So that was the only way out of the Matrix. But imagine that this is the end of it. This is the end of this Matrix. We will be getting used to it, of course, because we have a habit, and the habit sits in our nervous system. So we have a habit of a full mind. We have a habit of thinking. We have a habit of seeking conditions. And now it's the time to empty that mind and to once again be in the divine mind of God. So, which is exactly what we do when we meditate. That's right. We also exit time. Meditation gives us timelessness. Meditation allows us to go outside of the false time. And so we will repeat something very similar tonight at 5 p.m. Pacific. Tomorrow is going to be a little different. Tomorrow at 11 a.m., so that's our morning gathering, we will have a guest speaker, and it will be Alex Atterman, that you know from the school of Kaleshwar, Swami Kaleshwar. And why I invited Alex is because she will speak about Dattatreya. And Dattatreya was the character. It's a story. Everything's a story. Everything's in a way like a myth trying to tell us how to exit the matrix. Dattatreya is the story of how to exit the matrix, how to go beyond the good and bad, how to go through the middle, how to become completely not of this world. And so that's what we're going to do tomorrow. And tomorrow is the solstice. I recommend, if you can, of course, to do fast tomorrow, specifically on the solstice. 1 day fast cannot do any harm to anyone. And so, even if it's just for a few hours, to just give yourself the little break from the old self. The old self always thought it needs something in the matrix. And so it's nice, that's why we do little fasts. And 1 day fast, it's about psychology. It's not about the food itself. It actually has nothing to do with the food itself. It's about saying, today, the matrix will be around me, but I will remain in the world, but not of the world. And so that is exactly how this will go. So enjoy this beautiful solstice. Tomorrow we will continue and we will keep our meditations. And the goal is that, of course, we embody fully and completely the one in the middle, which is the Christ self. So thank you so much and many blessings.